Welcome back to another post-trip report episode of Where I Long to Be, a magical trip report podcast. I'm your host, Virginia. Thank you all for tuning in today. If you have not yet left a review for the show on the podcast app you're listening on now, please consider doing that today. It helps the show to be found by others. On today's show, I am welcoming back Amy, who recently traveled to Walt Disney World with her husband, Joe, April 22nd through 26th. Amy and Joe are DVC members and annual pass holders, and for this vacation, they chose to stay at Disney's Boardwalk Villas. That's enough to get you going if you didn't listen to the pre-trip report just before this. So now, on with the show. Here's Amy. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Your trip is over by a couple of weeks now. So, are you still feeling the effects of having had a vacation?
Yes, we had such a great trip, and we are in the process of trying to buy some more DVC points. So we really enjoyed our trip.
Oh, you are. Okay. Is this something you've been discussing for a while now?
Yes. And we went round and round with different resorts, and we're actually trying to buy some more of the Grand Floridian points.
Oh, okay. Direct or resale?
Resale.
Okay. Did you pull the trigger on this trip or is it in the works?
It's in the works, so we made the offer and the seller accepted, but now we have to wait for Disney because they have
Mm-hmm.
right of first refusal. So we're waiting to hear back.
Do you have any sense of how long you might have to wait?
So they're saying around 30 days. It might be a little bit less.
Okay. So for listeners who are not familiar, when you are buying resale points, Disney has the right of first refusal, meaning they get to take a look at what was offered and either let the sellers sell the points or they can choose to purchase them back themselves. So either way, the person selling the contract is going to get money. It's just a
Yes.
question of whether Disney thinks they are trying to sell it for too little an amount. And sometimes Disney will do that just because they want to keep the value at a certain price. So they will do it for price reasons. And other times it might be because they are working with someone who would like to purchase direct, but they don't happen to have any of the points for that resort available. So they'll purchase them back because they know they have somebody on the back burner who is waiting for a Grand Floridian contract to come up or something like that. So
Right.
I will cross my fingers for you.
We're excited because it would enable us to bring my family, bring my brother and his wife and my mother, do
Mm-hmm.
some extended family trips.
This is a little insider baseball, but did you get a contract that you made the offer on for the same use year that you already have?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. That's always the question to me because it seems like it might be challenging to juggle more than one use year. I already, with only one contract, have to think like, oh, I have to bank by this date, or these points within this use year need to be used by X date or whatever.
Yes, I would not want to manage more than one use year. And our use year is December, which
Mm-hmm.
is confusing. It's very confusing. So I want to just stick with that and not try
Yeah.
to add on to that.
It comes into play when you really like if you're using your points at a similar time every year, it's easier to keep track. But the reason I started to kind of look into it the other day was because there's a possibility that my normal February trip will need to be moved, in which case I was
Okay,
like, "Oh gosh, what am I going to do? Will I
right.
it would have to be at a time after the banking deadline, so it's kind of like at that point if anything happens and we couldn't go for some reason, then we would have to rent the points out to somebody else because the ones that are within that use year, it would be too late to bank them. And so it's it puts you in a
Yes,
precarious position.
yes,
Whereas
yes,
traveling in February with the use year that we have, which is October, if something happens, I still have time to book another trip and make it work. Anyway, it's all worth
no,
it for
it
anybody
is.
who's like, why would anybody do this? This sounds crazy. It's all
Yes,
worth it, especially when you think, okay, I'm going to go on a trip and I do not have to pay for my hotel because that was paid
right.
for long ago.
Yeah.
But But yeah, it's just you have to learn all the ins and outs when you become a
Yes.
DVC member. Speaking of DVC, I'm taking a look back at your plans. You did not plan any time at Magic Kingdom for this trip.
We really did not.
Okay.
We basically only spent time at Epcot and Animal Kingdom. We did not
Okay.
go to Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the fact that the new DVC lounge opened in Magic Kingdom. And so I was thinking, oh, I wonder if she went. And then I was scanning through and realizing, no, I don't think that happened.
But we did get up to the DVC Lounge in the Bay Lake Tower, which we have never been to before, and you had told me to go. So we
Mm-hmm.
did get up there and watch the fireworks, which was so much fun.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we will get to that part. Let's
Yes,
just dive right in then.
yes.
So you left on Tuesday, April 22nd, and you had an early morning flight out of Manchester, New Hampshire. How was your flight? Was it on time?
The flight was fine. It was on time. We landed about 10:20.
Hmm.
We got picked up right away by a driver from Gear Fusion. We were in the car by 10:50, and we were at the boardwalk by 11:15.
Okay. I know that you had a lunch reservation at Cake Bake Shop. I did not write down what time that reservation was. So, what did you do once you arrived up until when you needed to check in for your lunch?
Okay, so we got to Boardwalk and our room was ready. That like, never ever happens to me. I was so excited. So we went into the room and we unpacked. And we actually did not have a reservation at Cake Bake, but we wanted to go and eat at the bar.
Oh,
So
okay.
we got there about 12:10, and we they were able to seat us at the bar, which I think is a great hack if there are just two people
Hmm.
to not worry about a reservation and just have them seat you at the bar. There seemed to be plenty of seating there.
How was your room location? Had you gotten a boardwalk view or were you in a standard view?
We were in a standard room, and I had never stayed at Boardwalk before, so I didn't really know what to ask for. We were like 3 miles from the elevator. So I don't know that I can recommend our location.
Well, but
Also,
depending on like which direction you're talking about, which I think would be sort of in the direction of the Swan and Dolphin, it does
yes,
make it an easier walk to Hollywood Studios because you're kind of right by the path.
yes, I guess so. We were so far from the elevator, and then our balcony was hilarious. So we would sit on the balcony, and there were just two gigantic trees blocking the view of anything. So it wasn't
Oh.
our best view.
Hmm. But was the room nice?
Yes, it was very nice. Yes, I don't have any complaints. And I'm not even really complaining about where the room was located. I think you learn when you stay in a resort what you might want to ask for the next time.
Hmm. I tend to go on to the touring plans website because they have the
Yes,
room finder and you can kind of get a sense of what the view from different floors and locations and it just gives you a general sense of what you might want to look at. I can put a link to that in the show notes for anybody who's
yes,
curious. And then
yes.
it just gives you an idea. Obviously, room requests are not guaranteed,
No,
but I find it helpful to see a photo that someone took from a particular room number.
I agree. And I liked Boardwalk, but my husband and I talked about this. I think we would have loved it when our kids were little.
Hmm.
Um, to go there as, two people in our late 50s, we enjoyed it and we loved being able to walk right into Epcot. That was amazing. But
Hmm.
I don't know how much we enjoyed like the foot long, fried cheese sticks and the jugglers. Like I think we would have enjoyed that more with children.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get back over to the cake bake shop. So
Yes.
walking in, getting to sit at the bar. Now, what we all hear about when it comes to cake bake shop is A, how much glitter there is, and B, the pricing. So
Yes.
how was the food that you ate, and did you feel like the price was justified by the quality?
Okay, so I had the broccoli quiche, and Joe had a half of chicken salad, croissant, and gumbo. We really did enjoy our food, But I did want to say that only at lunch they have a DVC discount. They do not offer the discount at dinner. So I think if you want to
Oh,
try it, again, a great thing to do is just to walk over, get seated in the bar at lunchtime to try out the food. I enjoyed the food. I don't think it was worth the price, but we just had our lunch. We drank water. We didn't have any alcoholic beverages. We didn't have dessert. So I felt we really enjoyed it and it was worth it for what we paid for it with a discount.
okay. Was that a 10% discount?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I wonder if they do something similar for annual pass holders.
I'm not sure. That's a good
Mm.
question because I mentioned that we had both and
Hmm.
he seemed to lock on to the DVC.
Okay.
I'm thinking that they do it for both, but I'm really not sure.
We will find out, and I will put in the show notes. I have an
Okay,
app that I
thank
tend
you.
to use for like all of the different
Thank
kinds of
you.
discounts to keep track of it. All right. So this day in particular was an Epcot day, which makes sense. You checked in, you're ready to hit up the closest park there that you're most excited for. I know that you were using MultiPass Lightning Lane for this day. So, how did the day pan out? What time did you make it into the park? And walk me through what you did.
Okay, so we left Cake Bake Shop and we walked right into Epcot. We got right on Remy Ratatouille. That was great. From there, we walked over to the other side of the park and went on Living with the Land and Soaring. So again, we were using the multi-pass. We were getting right onto the rides.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I went on to Guardians. And my first song was Everybody Wants to Rule the World. As you
Yay!
know, Joe likes to sit on a bench, yes, while I'm on Guardians. And then my second song was I Ran. And
Mm-hmm.
it took me about an hour. Even with the individual lightning lane, it seems to take about a half hour to go through the
Mm-hmm.
line and the pre-show and the ride. So it took me about an hour to ride twice. So I think I was out coming out of Guardians by about 4 o'clock.
Okay, so what you were doing was riding standby and a single pass Lightning Lane back to back.
No, I had my
Oh,
individual lightning pass and
and then
Joe's
you use
individual
his.
lightning pass. Yes.
Got it. Got it.
Yes.
Excellent hack for someone who has a partner who's not going to use theirs. Just take their
Yes.
band or their card and go back in. All
Yes.
right.
And I think he maybe walked around a little bit and then he actually went back to the room and was relaxing. So at 4 o'clock, I got off Guardians for the second time and I walked back to the room and we had some groceries that were delivered.
Okay. All right. Did you end up going back into Epcot this day?
I did. So from there, we unloaded the groceries. We got showered, and then we went over to Amare, which is at the Swan Reserve, and we
Yes, and
had
I
just
keep hearing people talk about this. It keeps coming up for some reason. I have not even looked at the menu yet. So tell me a little bit about the kind of food and what is the atmosphere like?
okay. So it is a Mediterranean restaurant. It's just a very high level of service, but yet very relaxed. I think the prices are reasonable compared to like Disney dining. The food is excellent. They have an excellent wine list. Joe and I both I had chicken skewers with like hummus and tabbouleh and a
Ooh,
cucumber
yum.
salad and homemade pita. It was amazing.
Hmm.
Joe had the same dish but with beef. We ordered a really nice bottle of wine. Our server was amazing. It was just such a nice, relaxing evening.
Okay, that sounds right up my alley. All of those foods that you mentioned sound like things I would be into. So, what did end up doing after dinner?
So we walked back to Boardwalk. I literally tucked Joe into bed. I said goodbye. I did. I pulled the covers up and then I left and, walked as fast as I possibly could. And I stopped and got my ice cream in France. I love that little ice cream shop in France. And I
Hmm.
walked over, I think it was like in front of Morocco. And there was a really nice couple there from Texas. And I chatted with them and ate my ice cream. and watch the Epcot fireworks.
Now, I remember the last time you and I spoke, you did something similar. So it seems to me like Epcot fireworks are your me time, which I
Yes,
love.
yes,
You're starting your
yes.
tradition. All
Uh,
right. From there, was it just back to bed for you too?
yes, and I walked back to the room, and it was so funny. For that first day, there were so many people on VIP tours. I don't think I've ever noticed so many plaid vests before, and
Hmm.
so many people, like you could see that were clearly making some kind of Disney video, which I thought was interesting, like talking into their phones about what they were seeing. So I thought that was interesting. But I was back to the room by 9:34, and yes, definitely just got ready for bed because we had been up since probably, 3:30 in the morning.
Right, because your flight was at 7:30 a.m. So that's
Exactly.
understandable. All
Yeah.
right, Wednesday, April 23rd, another Epcot day, but this day you had a behind the scenes tour booked. Was that for first thing in the morning?
Yes, I believe it was at 10:15. So
Mhm.
that was nice where we could just kind of, sleep in, relax, get up and shower. We walked into Epcot and we did the behind the scenes tour, and I've never done it before, and it was just really like interesting and relaxing. We had a nice group of people. It was very interesting to learn about how they grow all the different fruit and vegetables, how they use them at the festivals and restaurants. So we really enjoyed that.
Mhm. I think it is a fantastic value for what you're getting
Yes.
because I don't
Yes.
remember how much it is without a discount. I feel like with a DVC discount, it was something like $30 a person maybe when I did
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think it's got to be like $40 at regular price, something similar to that. So
Right.
an easy
It's
one
very
for people
affordable.
to budget for. What did you think of Stanley?
Definitely touched Stanley and his little leaves wrapped around my finger. But it was just so interesting to see again how they grow the fruit and
Hmm.
vegetables, how they grow like Mickey shaped pumpkins and cucumbers.
Hmm.
I learned a lot about fruit and vegetables. And again, some of the unique ways that they grow fruit and vegetables, like without soil. So it was very
Hmm.
interesting. And we just had like nice people on the tour and a nice tour guide. I really think it's a very like relaxing, enjoyable, educational, informative thing to do.
Yeah, I would 100% do it again.
Yes. Oh, I would too. Yeah. My
Hmm.
husband really
Yeah.
enjoyed it too.
Yep. All right. So after that, you did have a lunch reservation at Shiki Sai. Did you do anything between your tour and making your way over to Japan?
No, we just kind of headed over and we were seated right away at Shikisai. They sat us right in the window. It's just such a nice restaurant. Again, you have beautiful views of Epcot. The service there is phenomenal. We love the food. We just really had a great time there.
Good.
Yeah, we got the dragon roll, which was really good. It's a little bit different for us. It was something different. It has like eel on the top and shrimp tempura in the roll, but that was
Hmm.
phenomenal. And then we had, it's usually made with beef, but we ordered it with chicken. It was a hot stone bowl with spinach. And they kind of come over and prepare it at the table. Yeah, the food was excellent. And again, the service was phenomenal.
After lunch, I know that you had plans to do Guardians of the Galaxy again because you're crazy about that ride as well. What songs did you get?
It's so funny. Joe grew up in Cleveland, so the Guardians were on that day. So he was so happy to head back to the room and watch a little baseball. And I went back to Guardians, and I got one way or another twice. So I wrote it twice, and both times I got one way or another.
I cannot recall if I've ever asked you this before, but what is your favorite song on Guardians?
I do love, what is the song that you like?
Everybody
Welcome
Wants
to
to
Your
Rule the
Life.
World.
Yes, I do like
Yes.
that one, but I love September, and I've only had September twice out of like 25 rides, so I would have to say September is my favorite. But I do like Everyone Wants to Rule the World. What about you? What is your favorite?
Everybody wants to rule the world for sentimental reasons.
Yes,
But I don't know. I'm sort of torn between one way or another and Disco Inferno just because I feel like they're both so fun.
sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah. So Conga, I really don't love, but I will sing and dance along with it. It's sort of like middle of the road for me. And
Right.
then September, and then my last is Iran.
Yes,
But I
I
mean,
understand.
I could ride it, every time, single time, get Iran, and I still would enjoy the ride. So it's like I'm not really losing
Yes.
no matter what happens.
No.
All right. Did you do anything else this day? Because this, if I'm correct, was not a day that you chose to do multipass.
No, no. I walked back from Guardians. I got my ice cream in France. That's very important to me. And then I went back to the room, relaxed, showered. And then that night we did our monorail crawl.
Okay. Where did you stop on your monorail crawl?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So we started at the Enchanted Rose, which is in the Grand Floridian.
What did you get?
I got rosé, and
Mm-hmm.
what did Joe get? He also got a glass of wine, I think Pinot Noir. And
Mm-hmm.
we got hummus. We ate some hummus and we just enjoyed the beautiful views. And it was so funny because I felt like everyone around us was also on a monorail crawl. So it was really funny. So there was like two families near us and they were doing the same thing. So from there, we walked to Polynesian and we went to Wailulu.
This was your first time at Wailulu, right?
No, it was Joe's first time at Wailulu. I had eaten there in January with my son.
So, what did you get at Wailulu? And did you sit at the bar?
We sat at that, like the outdoor seating. So we had a beautiful view. You can see kind of the infinity pool and then the Bay Lake and then you can see the castle. It's really pretty. I
Mm-hmm.
had fish of the day and Joe had the short rib. We loved our food. We had a great server. It was really nice.
Did you end up doing any Dole Whip or anything there?
No, we had a great meal, and then from there we got on the monorail and we went over to the Contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
And we had never been up to the DVC lounge, and it was really funny. We went to the lobby and asked the DVC rep that was there how to get up to the DVC lounge, and he explained it. And of course, when we tried to get in, that elevator was closed, and we walked all around, but we figured it out. Got up there, we got a glass of wine, and we watched the fireworks outside, and it was
Mm,
spectacular. It was really fun. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I need to do that every time, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a lot of fun. We had great views of the fireworks, and we were just there with some really nice people. There were some nice families around us, so we really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it.
Uh, what did you think of, I'm going to use air quotes, the villain theming? Because I think it is a very light hand with theming to the point where it makes me wonder why they did it.
I have to be honest, that was the first time I was ever there. We went inside and got a glass of wine and came right back outside. So I can't even say that I noticed the villains theming. So clearly it is
Yeah.
very subtle.
I will tell you what I recall of seeing the villains theming is simply right by where you walk in. There is sort of like either some hooks on the wall or like a clothing rack, and there's like some villains clothing items as if they've just parked themselves there, and they're off, and like maybe like Cruella's coat or Captain Hook's capelet or whatever is just like that is it. I don't recall anything else special that made it villains theme. I think there might be some names of some things you can order that might be in the villains realm, but I just think it's really funny. Like, why even bother? Just like keep it top of the world lounge. Like,
I agree. I agree. And I really, to be honest with you, I don't want to pay $55 and make a reservation. It's just fun at Disney to have some things that are just
hmm
spontaneous. To just head up there and order a drink and watch the fireworks and not have to plan ahead.
right, right. And I think sometimes they do have some events and stuff that you do have to, make a reservation for. But in general, if it's not a super busy time of year, then I think it's easy to do a walk up to it. And based on the dates that you went, I am wondering whether you hit up against anyone's spring break because of how late it was in April.
Well, it was definitely Massachusetts spring break because I am a teacher. I think it
Mhm.
was, it was maybe six, seven, eight, even as far as crowds on touring plans.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say we had some pretty good crowds. I think we were lucky to get in the night that we went up there. We were kind of waiting outside and then we were let in to get the glass of wine, and then we were able to get back outside. But it was fairly, full inside.
All right. Well, let's move into Thursday, April 24th. And this was not really a park day. You didn't have any specific plans because you had a Wine Bar George wine tasting. So tell me about
Yes, so
that.
that morning, again, we kind of got up. We had, a leisurely morning in the room. I did go over and ride Guardians. I know that is shocking to you. So it was so funny. I got up and I got dressed and I basically walked as fast as I could over to Guardians. I left the room
hmm
at 9:40 and I was in line at about 10 o'clock over at Guardians. And it was kind of hot and humid that day, and I have naturally curly hair. So by the time I got off Guardians, my hair just looked crazy. That morning, there was no song on Guardians.
Oh.
So, and I'm sure everyone is saying, did I complain? Did I go to the Blue Umbrellas? But I did not have time to deal with it. So it was
hmm
really funny. I'm getting on the ride and I'm with all these young men. It's their bachelor party. So there's all these young men and me, and we're all getting onto the ride. No, it's hilarious. So we
hmm
ride the ride, and I felt terrible because the young man I was with had never been on the ride before. And then there's no
Oh.
song, and it's not fun without the song. It's completely different. And I wish that I had said to the people who work there, we didn't get a song. But you don't think of that until you're off the ride and like walking away. But
I'm sure they
I
knew.
just didn't have time to, yeah, I didn't
hmm
have time to deal with it though because I had to walk as fast as I could back to the room to shower because I did
hmm
not want to go to Wine Bar George with my crazy Guardians humidity curly hair.
Yeah, I'm sure they knew. There is a person, a cast member, who typically is sitting at like a console at the exit to the ride. And one
Okay,
time I was riding it and I was doing like a single rider situation, and the three people that I was in the car with were intimately familiar with the ride and exactly how it should feel and whatever. And I've ridden it a bunch of times. I like it felt
yes.
fine to me, but they were aware that it didn't turn as much as it normally would. Would not have picked
Hmm.
up on it. I was having a great time regardless, but they
Okay,
said something to the person at the console. The person at the console looked down, was able to confirm that that indeed was the case, that they weren't just making it up. And
right.
there's a door right there next to the console that basically you walk through and you're at the loading spot again. And so they opened that door for us,
Wow.
sent us through, and we immediately got to get on and have a second go at it. So, just
Oh,
if something happens on Guardians in particular, that like really
right,
like there's no song or don't just try to pull something, but if you say it to the person at the
right.
console, then it's possible you might get to ride right there. You don't need to wait to go out to the Blue Umbrella or anything like that. But I mean, I understand you didn't have time, but I would feel so bad if it were
Right.
somebody I was with and it was
Well,
their first time. Ugh.
yes, yes, and I'm not upset for myself. I wish I had said something because, again, this group of men who are so nice and it was their
Mhm.
first time, I wish I had spoken up for them. But to be honest with you, I honestly didn't really think of it until I was walking away what I should have done. And I was just so concerned about my crazy curly hair. So I did walk back. I took a shower, and we took a bus over to Disney Springs and checked
Mhm.
into Wine Bar George by 11:45, which was perfect because the wine
Mhm.
tasting started at noon.
I have never done the wine tasting there before. Is it something where you get a mix of reds, whites, rosé, that sort of thing, or can you specify I prefer red or I prefer white?
Okay, so it is George, and he is the master. I'm going to say this correctly, sommelier. So you
Mhm.
go into like a private room upstairs, and they have poured six glasses, so three whites and three reds, and there's like beautiful charcuterie boards set up, and he is just the nicest, warmest person. He talked for 2 hours. Like it was supposed to be 90 minutes. He talked for 2 hours. He tells you about his experience, how he became a master sommelier, what the tests were like. You know, he teaches you about wine and tasting. It was just so interesting. People that were there with us had been there multiple times. So I think
Mm.
that's interesting. It's not like he's giving the same talk over and over and over again. He's pouring different wines. So every time you would go, it could be a different experience. But I
Mhm.
like if you're even just the slightest bit interested in wine, I would highly recommend it. It was the
Mhm.
highlight of our trip. We could not have enjoyed it anymore.
Did you discover any new wines that you now know you love?
Yes, and I can't tell you those wines. I took pictures of all the bottles.
Mhm.
So we will definitely try some different wines because, I know the basics. There's Rosé, there's
Mhm.
Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. I know my basics, but he was mentioning wines that I had not heard of before. So I would
Mhm.
definitely, broaden my horizons a little bit and try some of the wines he mentioned. Also,
Mhm.
he pours some, very expensive wines, but he also pours some less expensive wines. And I think he's trying to show you that there are so many good wines. Just because a wine is expensive, doesn't mean it's going to be wonderful. And just because a wine
Mhm.
is inexpensive doesn't mean it doesn't have value. So, again,
Right.
I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but it was fascinating. We loved it. It was so interesting. We couldn't have enjoyed it anymore. I can't
Yeah.
recommend it any more highly. We loved it. It was definitely the
Yeah.
highlight of the trip.
I think when it comes to wines, what you like is what you like, and it does not matter what the price is. It's just, you can like a wide variety of things. And I do the trick with the taking the photos because I can never remember. Like I remember the general types of wine I like, but I cannot remember brands to save my life. And so I
No.
started taking photos of the bottles if I have one that I really like. And then I have an
Yes.
album in my iPhone called Wine. And that
So
way,
smart.
when I go to the wine store, I just open up my little folder. I'm like, oh yeah, these are the ones I like. Let me see if they have those. So pro tip, don't let those
Yes.
photos get lost in your photo roll. Make an album
Yes.
for them.
No. Thank you. I will. And one thing I wanted to say, like, not only does he have an amazing palate, but he
Hmm.
knows so much about the different regions of the world and the
Hmm.
winemaking process. He can sniff a wine and look at it and then tell you, like, he could talk to you for 15 minutes about it just by sniffing it and looking at the color. I just thought it was amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard about people
Yeah.
like that. I cannot say that my sense of smell is strong enough to think that I would ever have that ability, even if I did take the time to learn about wines. I hear he's so nice.
He's so nice. And again, so laid back. It was so much fun. And Joe and I tried so hard. Like he would say, "Sniff it. What do you smell?" And we were trying so hard. And there were two other women at our table, and they were like, "I smell fennel." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't smell fennel."
Really, I
I
smell
wish
wine.
exactly. I smell wine.
Oh, that's funny.
So we tried very hard, but again, we learned so much. We enjoyed it, and we will
Hmm.
definitely do that again.
Where did you head after that? Because I think you were going to try to get some lunch, and I imagine after drinking a bunch of wine, you probably needed a little something to eat.
Yeah, so we actually went over to Haleo. I have wanted to go to Haleo for years.
Hmm.
So it was kind of like a lunch where you pick three different courses.
Hmm.
I'm going to look at this. We got endives that had orange and goat cheese and almonds. We had a
Hmm.
bread with tomato and cheese and ham, um, patatas bravas, chicken fritters, shrimp, and then sausage with white beans. So we just had a variety of small plates, and the
Hmm.
food was excellent. We had a really nice lunch.
Mm, that sounds delicious.
It really
Did you
was.
end up doing any part time at all on this day? Because you had mentioned maybe trying to do Phantasmic.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so from there, again, Joe is on this kick of we need to figure out which resort we want to buy some more DVC points. So we actually went over to Wilderness Lodge and we sat at the Territory Lounge. And at that point, I'm like, I cannot drink any more alcohol. It's like, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, so I got like a sparkling water. He had a beer, and we kind of walked around Wilderness Lodge a little bit. And then what did we do? We took a bus back to the resort, and it was really funny because the bus took forever. We took a boat to Magic Kingdom, and then we took a bus back to Boardwalk, and it took forever to get the bus. And it was so funny. Joe said, "This is a sign that we don't want to be at a resort that only has buses for transportation." So again, I
Hmm.
love Wilderness Lodge. No disrespect towards
Hmm.
Wilderness Lodge. I love it. But it is a good
Hmm.
point. You only have the boat to Magic Kingdom, and you do need to take the bus to the other resorts. So that night we went back. Again, we showered, we got ready, and I really wanted to go to Bar Riva, but
Hmm.
Joe's is having issues with his knees. He didn't want to, walk. So we just went downstairs and we ate at the Trattoria El Forno. It's an Italian
Hmm.
restaurant right there on the boardwalk.
How was that?
It was okay. I think for us, where we had eaten at Amare and Shiki Sai, and we'd gone to Wine Bar George and Halea, we had all these like really adult, quiet experiences, and then we were like thrust back into like Disney with kids, and it was loud. It was really funny. We were like, "Oh my gosh, this was like our first experience. Like oh my God, we're at Disney. It's loud here. There's a lot of children." So
Mm.
it was fine. It was fine. I think if you were there and you had your children and you wanted to take a break from a park, it would be a great place to go. So it was
Hmm.
decent food. It was fine, but it paled in comparison to some of the other places we had been.
Hmm.
And then in my notes, I have we went to bed early and Joe watched the NFL draft.
Oh, okay.
And that was the night we were supposed to go to Phantasmic. But I'm going to be honest with you. When you just hit the wall, I was
Right.
exhausted and I wasn't feeling great. Like my stomach was bothering me. We
Hmm.
just needed a good night's sleep. So we just
Yeah.
went to bed early.
Yeah. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yes, yes. And again, I swear we're going to get to Phantasmic, but it just wasn't the night for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move into Friday, April 25th. And this was an Animal Kingdom day. So that park opens the earliest after the day you had. on Thursday, what time did you actually get out and begin your fun for Friday?
All right, so for Friday, we got on the Animal Kingdom bus around 8:50. We arrived at the park at 9:10. Um, and we had the multi-pass that day, so I wasn't that concerned about getting there, the minute it opened.
Mm-hmm.
We got on the safari at 9:25. I did the little Gorilla Falls walk, which I love. I saw the mere cats and the
Mm-hmm.
gorillas and zebras. From there, we went over and rode Avatar, and then we did Navi River Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we had an early lunch at Satuli Canteen, which was
Mm-hmm.
great. And then we went over and did Nemo, which I really enjoyed. We always do the Lion King show, but I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to try Nemo, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
I love that Nemo stage show. I think it's so
It
good.
was it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really good show.
Mm.
And then from there, we just took the bus back to the resort. Joe stayed in the resort, and I went over to Epcot.
To guess what?
Yeah,
Say it
exactly.
together. Ride
Yeah,
Guardians.
to ride Guardians and eat the ice cream in France. Yes. Um, so I got some ice cream in France, and I actually took the boat over, which I never do, but it was just really hot, and I just wanted like a little break from the sun. So I took the boat over, and I got off, and I did the little Nemo ride, and I
Mm-hmm.
went into the aquarium, and I the last I think two times I went, they didn't have the manatees, but they have new manatees that were there. So I just spent so much time. I looked at the manatees, I saw stingrays. I just really enjoyed the aquarium. And then I went over and I rode Guardians once, and I got September, which I
Mm-hmm.
felt like was my reward because I didn't have a song the day before. And then I went back to the room, I took a shower, and we took a lift over to the Four Seasons Orlando because we
Mm-hmm.
had a dining reservation at Ravello.
Can you remind me if you have been to Ravello before?
I have been to Ravello, or Joe and I had been to Ravello before, about a year and a half before October
Mm-hmm.
2023. And I
Okay.
mention that because both our server and the young man whose job it is to basically pour your water remembered us and came over and talked to us
Wow.
from being there a year and a half before. Yes, it was, everyone there was so nice.
That's
The
crazy.
service was phenomenal. We just had a great night there.
I just don't feel like I would do anything memorable enough for someone to remember me several years later at a restaurant. I mean, I think I'm pretty, captivating or whatever. Like,
You are.
I'm not boring, but I also would be shocked I would be shocked if somebody remembered me a week later, much less
I
years later.
know. I know. It is so funny. And I think both times we've been to Ravello, we've enjoyed it so much. We've engaged with the people that work there. And when the waitress walked by, Joe said, like, oh, I think she was our server. And then she did come over and say hello. Like, I have to be honest, I'm equally as shocked. And then the young man who was coming to our table and pouring the water, he said to us, I remember you, honestly, a year and a half before.
Hmm.
So again, we could not have had a nicer time at the Four
Mm-hmm.
Seasons. It is absolutely gorgeous. I know you have been
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone to be intimidated going there. You think it's the Four Seasons and it's stuffy, but I find it very approachable, very
Mm-hmm.
relaxed. The staff is phenomenal. The food was great, and we couldn't have enjoyed it more. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that when you hear Four Seasons, it makes it seem like it's going to be, you know, something where you might feel out of place or that you have to be super dressed up. And I think they do have a fancier restaurant over there. I can't
Yes.
recall what it's called right this
Um,
second.
I
But
think
Ravello was
it's
not it.
Kappa.
Ravello,
No,
yes, Kappa. Yeah,
Kappa.
yeah,
Yes,
yes. But Ravello is very casual.
it is. It's very casual, very approachable. There were
Hmm.
kids in there eating pizza. Very relaxed.
Yeah. All right. Well, did you make it over to any kind of fireworks after Ravello?
Oh my gosh. So we left Ravello, we went back to the resort, and again, I left Joe and I went into Epcot and watched the fireworks. And Joe is not a party pooper or anti-fireworks. He's just having a lot of issues with his knees right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he enjoyed kind of relaxing back at the room. And it's so easy when you're at Boardwalk to
Right.
just walk in, watch the fireworks, and come back.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if he were anti-fireworks and that was the thing he chose to protest?
That's
Oh
funny.
my goodness.
No, so we got back, and then yeah, Saturday we had to check out,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
So you were getting picked up Saturday morning at 8 a.m., so pretty early pickup. Did
Yes,
everything go okay with your flight?
yes,
Okay.
yes. We were picked up on time. Our flight left on time. We had a great flight, and we were back home in Massachusetts by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which
Mm-hmm.
was nice. To get back on Saturday at 3. You had Sunday to do laundry and groceries, and then I was back
Mm-hmm.
at school on Monday. And my students were very jealous that I went to Disney.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm jealous. So, when are you heading back?
That is a great question. We do have a trip planned in November,
Mm-hmm.
and just 3 nights, and staying at the Polynesian. And we've never stayed at the Polynesian before, so I'm very excited about that.
Oh, fun. Okay. I
Yes,
love the Polynesian, so I can't wait to hear what you think of it as an actual resort guest and not somebody just, hopping over for a dining reservation and that sort of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Amy, it has been a pleasure as always.
It's been so nice talking with you. It's so much fun to like relive all those fun memories.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I hope that you will give me an update when you hear back about your DVC contract that you are waiting to hear about.
I will, I promise.
All right. Well, take care. Thank you so much for being here with me again. And I hope you will continue to come back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Amy, for coming back to the podcast. Amy was on the show previously for her November 2024 trip, so that will be linked in the show notes in case you're interested in checking it out. As a reminder, I am currently looking for future guests who have trips planned for September through the end of the year. Your trip could be to any Disney or Universal or similar destination worldwide. All you need is enthusiasm to talk about your trip plans. If you know someone who might make a great guest, please send them my way. That is all for today. I hope everyone has a magical week and that you'll continue to keep daydreaming about where you long to be.